Atul, I'm very curious as to why in construction it's difficult to innovate. What do you think?
I think the other thing that's very true is the cost of a single failure is pretty catastrophic, can be pretty catastrophic. And so people are very risk averse. And when you are risk averse, you get into more the preservation mode rather than,
Yes.
innovation, like being on the bleeding edge kind of a mode.
How do you know you are successful in your role?
Success for us as a construction company is when we can have predictable outcomes for our customers.
What's the annual spend on that technology within your department? If you can share that.
We typically budget like $2-3 million, for like sort of trying new things every year. But our, total sort of, technology, budget, percentage wise can be, or maybe dollars wise, like, it could be like, 80-90 million, something like that. From a budget point.
If you do have a technology solution, who should you sell to? The people using the technology, the CTO or the CFO?
I think it's the personas that are at least the initial one, should be the personas that it's meant to be. So if it's a solution that is going to help the project engineer, I think, that's where you probably should start, because the CTOs, like people like me, are not, day-to-day, sort of operators that are going to know exactly what someone in the field finds valuable.
How is technology actually used in AEC? In corporate innovations, we explore the innovation and implementation procedures used by those who actually use the tech on a day-to-day basis. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator, responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode.
So good. Actually, Atul, whereabouts are you currently?
I am based in San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. And happy Diwali season. So 27 years and 4 months. Is that right?
That's correct.
At DPR. So I'm curious. We obviously talk a lot about technology on this podcast. How have you seen the technology landscape evolve over the years?
I think I would say probably two things. One, I think technology is becoming a lot more accessible to a lot more people easily, and it's a lot more mature than it has ever been. So I think that would be one thing I would say. I think it's also gotten a lot better, just to use, ease of use, what it can do for you, all those things. So I remember my early days, even to make coordination meeting work was a big effort. I mean, now, most people should be able to do it pretty easily. So,
What was the definition of technology 27 years ago, and what is it now?
I think 20 years ago, I am trying to remember. We had pagers and fax machines and a lot of paper-based process. A lot of technology was basically trying to automate, workflows in sort of form-based systems. I think if you think about, the revolution that happened with like building information model, the representation of information about a building was in multiple places instead of like one place where you have the 3D representation as well as the information, which happened sort of with the BIM revolution. So a lot of it, technology was sort of trying to make sense of what you are looking at and workflow related. And I think now, there's a lot more visual, a lot more, understandable kind of, technology tools that are available now.
Interesting. Okay, so I think with you today, we're going to discuss like innovation, DPR's innovation strategy, and also some touch upon some things on technology. And if we get there, WND Ventures. Let's see how we go. So you're Chief Technological Officer. It's a little bit unconventional, that title, because we used to often associate like the role of the CTO of a tech company and whatnot. But obviously, we're talking about a construction company here. So could you perhaps define what the role of Chief Technological Officer at DPR is?
Yeah, so I should probably say I use that title outside more than inside of DPR. In DPR, we don't have titles. We talk more roles and responsibilities.
Very good.
But we have to have a title, obviously, on our company docs and communicating with external folks. But really, I think the notion that I think that sort of communicates is really, if you think about, in a technology company, a CTO is really responsible for the products that are serving a customer's needs. And when I look at sort of my job, I come from a construction background, and to me, technology is a means to essentially deliver what we are basically doing for the customer. So how does it really improve the construction process? Is really more what I want to focus on. I am focused on. There are other aspects of my job, like, managing our, IT network and IT assets and all that comes along with it. But that's more the CIO sort of a responsibility. External world understands sort of the CTO more as somebody that builds a product that to be used for a customer. So in our industry, to me, it's utilizing the products that we use to deliver construction projects. Technology.
Okay, so what does the success mean within your role? Is it perhaps a number of new technology tools working on site, or maintaining the current technology stack to the level that it works? Was it success for you?
Success for us as a construction company is when we can have predictable outcomes for our customers. And when I say predictable outcomes, the predictable outcome towards the end of a project, which is, whether the project meets the quality requirements that the customer has, did it finish on time and within the budget, and does it over life cycle perform the way it was envisioned or designed. Those are the success factors. So from my perspective, technology plays a very critical role, especially in the type of projects that we do. They are very technically challenging projects for healthcare, advanced technology, all of those things. So from my perspective, success is really, are we providing those tools that is helping our project teams to deliver on that promise for their customer, not just in one phase of the project, but throughout the project life cycle. That do our customers feel like they're getting the right level of input to be making the decision so that we can finish the projects on time, within budget, within the quality expectations. And when I look at it, I can almost sort of see the trajectory within our company. Since we adopted things like virtual design and construction, our profitability has gone up. Our, promise to our customer has gotten better. Our projects have been more successful. We see less waste. We see less lower number of, for example, change orders or RFIs related to, coordination type issues, things like that. So that's what I attribute sort of our success to, is our ability to deliver on that promise to the customer, but then also these examples of sort of, reduction of waste throughout the process.
Okay. Atul, I'm very curious as to why in construction it's difficult to innovate. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, we are obviously, you guys are familiar with, we are a fragmented industry. I think there have been numerous examples. Low margin, also fragmented and low margin industry. On a successful year for us is when we make 2 to 3% after taxes. So it's a very low margin industry from that perspective. And I think the other thing that's very true is the cost of a single failure is pretty catastrophic, can be pretty catastrophic. And so people are very risk averse. And when you are risk averse, you get into more the preservation mode rather than, innovation, like being on the bleeding edge kind of a mode. And that's what I attribute sort of the lack of innovation to. And I think the other thing I also see is that sometimes the innovation you want, the benefit of that innovation is actually to somebody else than you. And so we also need to sort of really think about that business model in our industry where what you are innovating for, you should also be able to benefit from rather than just for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Maybe broad question, Atul, but tell us about your innovation strategy. Maybe you can narrow it down a little bit as well.
Yeah, so I think our innovation strategy is one is sort of, we talk about a couple concepts. I mean, a disciplined innovation approach, an embrace of the open innovation kind of a concept. And I'll describe each one of those. So a disciplined innovation approach to us is we think that if you actually have some constraints that you're working towards, it's better than not having any constraints, on the innovation effort. So one of the things that we have sort of said is, the ideas that we would invest in need to fall under the category of, improving safety, quality, sustainability, supply chain, productivity, those five sort of broad categories. The other thing we talk about is how does this really help the customer? So we really want people to be thinking, on your project or on your, your customer, like how does this really help? And then that's kind of that disciplined approach I'm talking about. And then the open innovation concept is really, we know that we are one member of the broader sort of owner, architect, designer, contractor, trade partner, supplier sort of ecosystem. And we need to partner with others to really bring some of these innovations to life. And so one of the things that we have actively promoted is, this idea that, not all answers are within the walls of our company, but that, we should partner with entrepreneurs. We should partner with people who are thinking about sort of new things in the industry and partner with them to change the way we do things. So that's the open innovation concept that we sort of talked about. And my belief is that I think in our industry, being on the bleeding edge doesn't really help. I think being on the leading edge, I would probably say is still a good strategy for us.
Is it or is it not? Sorry.
It is a good strategy for us.
Mm-hmm. Are you on the leading edge?
I think on some cases we are. Like we were the first company that patented the layout robot, for example. The idea that robots can do layout for you, the first patent in the industry was awarded to us back in 2008. Now, if you go around, many construction sites in the world, the layout robots are being utilized quite a bit. I mean, we ourselves have 8 of those. We have been in some instances on the leading edge. In some instances, we have been on the bleeding edge, and I don't know that I would probably want to be on the bleeding edge because I think you end up spending a lot more, rather than essentially doing a much more of a sort of an approach where I think the technology can be more mature, for example.
Can you tell us a little bit more how to stay on this leading edge as an innovation department within the large GC?
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The things that we look at sort of innovation, I mentioned the 5 sort of big areas of safety, productivity, quality, sustainability, and supply chain are sort of the focus areas for us. So broadly, we want the people to be sort of focused on those because that directly ties to kind of this promise to the customer and the predictable outcomes for our customers. I think the other things that we have sort of said is, there's the what I see in the industry, there's the solution-oriented approach where, there's a lot of entrepreneurs coming up with, hey, we have this solution that will help you. And many times we get sort of, exposed to that. But there's also this problem oriented approach also, where there are things that we know are problems that we need to solve. An example of a problem, from a safety perspective is, underground utilities, where, a lot of projects that we do, underground utilities, don't have good as-builts and things like that. So how do you do that work safely? And can there be technology that we can utilize to help us with that? So I think what we see and kind of this, from a large company perspective is when we marry the two, then that's when it becomes better. So if we can find solutions to the problems that we know exist in our industry already, then it becomes, better. And we have the list of both. So we track it sort of both on the problem space, and we call the second one the solution space. We think that it creates a very frustrating experience if all you are doing is only in the solution space, and all that leads to is just a rapid sort of experimentation with like 100 different companies, and it doesn't really tie to the strategy of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's very interesting. How do you decide which problem are you tackling? Because I guess there's lots of them that you could spend capital on, but you can't deal with all of them.
Yeah, and I think, so the broader categorization I already mentioned, I think safety is always the number one. We call safety value, not a priority. So I think whatever we can do to improve that, I think comes number one. But all the other ones are also sort of important for us, quality, supply chain, sustainability, and productivity. So I think those are the sort of the broader categories. And then what else we look for is, what sort of behavior change? Because I think most of the things what we see is that even you have the best technology solution, there needs to be some process behavior change for it to really provide you the benefit. So what does that look like? What does that include? So I think we do that also.
Interesting. Yeah, the process part is interesting. Do you guys have a process that you follow? And in particular, I suppose our audience are mostly interested in like how you scout for solutions and perhaps pilot and implement them.
Yeah, so we do have a process. We are a big company, and we get exposed through through a lot of people. Our front lines, our participation in conferences, all this, to a lot of solutions that people are dreaming up in our industry. So we are pretty familiar with it. We are also part of a few. We are a limited partner in a venture capital firm called Building Ventures. We are also part of a consortium, Built Worlds. We are members at. We are also part of this AEC Angels group. So we get a lot of exposure to sort of what innovation is happening outside in our industry. So we do get that exposure. And then we also have a whole process internally where we basically identify which one of those things we want to try out on that fall in these like broader categories. We identify a project which would classify as sort of a proof of concept. If the proof of concept becomes successful, we would roll that out into maybe multiple pilots. And once the pilots become successful, then we figure out a much wider rollout within the company. So that is the process that we typically go through. Now, if you ask me whether that happens all the time, it doesn't, because we always get surprised by, there's a project engineer here who just downloaded something and it's working really well. Have you looked at it? So we also have that, and we have to respond to that. So
yeah, interesting.
How long is this process?
It's typically, we want it to be sort of within a 6 month, sort of either scale it or kill it kind of a thing. It doesn't happen that quickly sometimes given project schedules, but that's kind of our desire at least.
Would you normally purchase solutions like at the beginning of a project? Is there like a cycle that you typically follow to end of year, tax end, or similar?
Most of the things, it really depends on what type of technology you're talking about. Like, I think, so we're not going to do project management solution at the, for starting every new project. I mean, that's a standard application we have. The project sort of, just gets that when they start. But if there is some very unique thing that the project wants to do, or unique conditions, like, so for example, one of the sites that we are currently working on is a large area. I mean, almost size of like multiple city blocks. So, in order to just manage sort of the job site logistics, I mean, it's hard to do any of that without using drones. Now, would every project need drones? Probably not. So I think that would be unique to that project. But, every project that we have uses building information models. So that technology is sort of much more standard. We do a enterprise agreement about that. Every computer that we issue has all those tools installed on them and all that. So it varies depending on which technology you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I just want Atul to go back for a second for this to this 6-month period of time that you are testing technology, more or less 6-month period.
Yeah.
What problems do you encounter usually if there is any repetitive problem during this period of time while discovering particular technology? And yes, what have you learned?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting question. Actually, we learn a lot. I mean, sometimes, what happens is the demos don't translate into real life. That's what we learn. We learn about situations that somebody's trying to do something which is very valid, that the product hasn't contemplated. I mean, we also learn a lot about the people that are actually providing that technology, the company that we are working with. I mean, some of these early startups, it's very interesting. Like some of these early startups, we have teams that are very responsive, and then other teams where we realize, these founders are not getting along or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we learn. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's scalability issues. So, we introduce something and it works on a smaller data set, but then the bigger data set, we run into issues. There's all kinds of those types of issues that we learn in this process.
Okay, and on your team side, is there any? How do you storage this knowledge base of a particular technology, and how you acquire this knowledge? Is it through mainly talking to other market participants and startups? How do you deal with this?
Yeah, so I think once we track everything we pilot into, I mean, there's a centralized database that our distributed innovation team maintains. So, we'll document our pilot and the feedback from our people into that, so that if somebody else wants to try it, they can actually access it. And, we track the various stages, what the challenges were, all that. One of the things we have done is we have created this whole funding mechanism where people can apply for, let's say innovation funding. But the requirement in exchange of that is we want at least their feedback. So our innovation, we have about 6 people across the country that, manage our innovation efforts. They work with the project teams to get that feedback, and then we sort of capture that because we want to figure out, what we are good at. Many times is like starting something, like trying to test out. What traditionally we haven't been very good at is sort of capturing that feedback or killing it, quickly. So that's something we are now starting to talk about more is, get sort of that done,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any more on this, Martin?
No, I think I exhausted this one. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Atul, so you mentioned some broad subject areas: safety, productivity, quality, sustainability, and supply chain. I'm already learning. Okay, are there specific pain points within any of these areas of stuff that you are like actively looking for right now? Perhaps robotic solutions for X or Y, safety solution for A or B.
Yeah. So one, I will give an example that we are actively sort of working on and invested in is this problem of having the right material on the site at the right time. And if you think about that problem, it's an industry-wide problem. It's not just a DPR problem. And I think with the fragmentation that exists in our industry, the transparency of, how materials get procured, how they get specified, how they get approved, how they get manufactured, how they get shipped, how they get on the site. It's all, our project engineers spend a ton of time sort of doing that. And what we see is that many people have, just to get a handle on it, like develop their own Excel spreadsheets or, smart sheets or, all kinds of things, to just keep up with it. Like, process from like, what does the specification say to, getting those approved from the design team to then procuring that through the supply chain, subcontractor suppliers to then making sure that they are showing up when you need, and they don't all need to come at one time. They can be spread across multiple months. So what we see is that there's two sources that people usually deal with. It's the schedule that the superintendent has on when stuff is supposed to show up. And then you back up all the way to when those materials are specified. And all of that information, we think people spend an enormous amount of time just trying to do this on their own in Excel. And the other thing we know is that many of these materials sometimes are substituted. Just because somebody specifies something doesn't mean we can install it because the availability might not be there and all that. And all this knowledge gets learned on a project. And we have a whole database of all of this stuff in our project management system. So what we are doing right now is we've invested in a couple entrepreneurs. We actually ran an idea competition within DPR. We generated about 250 ideas. And we said, hey, if we had $1 million to invest, which idea would we solve? And this was the idea. We call it integrated procurement, was the idea that came up on the top. And what that really means is kind of really extracting this data from the submittals to create your procurement or submittal schedule that then translates into a procurement schedule that's tied to your, master schedule in Primavera, and really getting all this integrated into one, sort of a system, rather than having all these like data silos. So we invested in a company that is using AI to do a lot of this, like linking of schedules and submittal items and all of those types of things. It's called Constructive IQ. And so that's an area in, broad category of supply chain, but really this, concept of we want to make sure that we can get the right material at the right time to where it's needed. And this is a very common problem that exists across the industry. So that's why we are investing in it.
Brilliant. So why Constructive IQ won the competition?
Because of a couple things. So we think that I think people were sort of trying to approach this again in kind of a form-based sort of, applications. We looked at a bunch of applications. I think there's ERP systems that are sort of trying to do this. And they basically were also thinking, so these two entrepreneurs were also thinking about a similar problem, but they were coming at it more from a AI first perspective. So like, what can we learn based on the data you already have? And what can we learn that would sort of simplify or automate the various processes? So like, for example, linking your activities to your submittal items, or doing what if analysis, within this whole integrated procurement process. So what we thought was that I think this allows us to make that jump into kind of what a next level procurement solution could look like, rather than just a routine, like automating the current process, for us. So that's why we, invested in that.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Do you guys, there are obviously one umbrella technology which is disrupting everything right now, which is artificial intelligence. So do you guys have an active task force or group that look at this internally? And is there a strategy for that?
Yeah. So I head that sort of task force group up within that's sort of part of my responsibility. We have sort of divided this into sort of the people that are the experts on sort of the AI, like the machine learning engineers and the data scientists. So that's like the one strategy is to sort of grow that expertise within the company or acquire that expertise somehow. So that's one strategy. The other approach is like, what problems do you want to solve? Kind of a strategy. And so for that, we have a stakeholder group that spans across all our functions. Let's say, our operations functions, our customer relations, our sales, marketing, HR, finance, all these functions. So there's experts that are sort of part of all of this that form like this stakeholder group for us, who we have met a few times to really identify, if there's all this promise of AI, which is the problem you want to sort of apply this to. And then the approach we are taking now is to sort of say, okay, which one of this is a low hanging fruit, which one of this is a really hard problem, and how do we sort of resolve that, and whether there are solutions out there that are trying to do that we should partner with, or is this something that we should do internally? And so that's like there's a second approach on the AI stuff. And then the other thing we are doing is developing partnerships with industry players. So we have done an agreement with OpenAI, and we are working on an agreement with Microsoft and Autodesk to really sort of figure out, what is your strategy? Can we partner with you? Because a lot of what the value that we bring to the table is the data that we we don't have the resources of all these technology companies, but they want our data. So what I'm working on right now is, can we partner with these entities that do have the resources that can utilize sort of our data to make progress in the AI front. So these three aspects, like building our own technical capability, identifying the problems we want to work on, and then investing on the technology and the partnerships, is kind of the three-pronged strategy on it.
What's the annual spend on that technology within your department? If you can share that.
Across all technology or any particular technology?
Across all new technologies that you are thinking of implementing.
So we typically budget like $2-3 million, for like sort of trying new things every year. But our, total sort of, technology budget, percentage wise can be, or maybe dollars wise, like, it could be like 80-90 million, something like that, from a budget point.
Interesting. So maybe this wedge into a nice question. If you do have a technology solution, who should you sell to? The people using the technology, the CTO, or the CFO?
I think it's the personas that are gonna, at least the initial one should be the personas that it's meant to be. So if it's a solution that is gonna help the project engineer, I think that's where you probably should start, because the CTOs, like people like me, are not, day-to-day sort of operators that are gonna know exactly what someone in the field finds valuable. Yeah. And even if you come to me, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to some of those people and say, hey, do you find this valuable? So I would say, like, I think that's where you need to start, especially if it's just a pilot that you're wanting to get feedback on. But keep the people that are responsible for innovation in the loop while you're doing that. And then when it comes time to scaling it up, that's when more the corporate departments obviously need to get engaged, from a security perspective, from a single sign-on integration, enterprise agreements, all of that, because, obviously your field folks have not done that before. They don't have the experience of sort of doing that. They obviously help us in sort of figuring that out. But that's the time when the vendors should work with the innovation and the technology groups to scale it up.
Mm-hmm. I just want to ask about the cost of technology. How relevant is cost of technology within DPR?
How
relevant is the cost of technology, and how you assess the cost, if it's a lot,
like
or
is cost of the solution?
Cost of the solution versus potential ROI.
Yeah. So I think we have started asking more the ROI question on anything sort of we make an investment in. And sometimes it's not as simple as just buying a technology. It's like really involved like a change in process and things like that. So yeah, it can vary for sure. and cost is always a relevant consideration in our industry. I mean, like I said, we are a very low margin industry, so anything we can save helps our bottom line. So yeah, I mean, I think cost is always a very relevant sort of consideration for us. But we are also cognizant of the value that the technology solutions can provide. And I think many times, what our industry is sort of looking for is, we want to use this technology. How do I recover this cost of me investing in this technology from, a portfolio of projects or things like that,
Would you be able to share any examples of badly incorporated technology and why it didn't work?
I mean, I have many examples, but I'm trying to think like what would be relevant sort of to share, because I think, when you say sort of badly implemented technology, I think the reasons of that could be varied. Like, it's not just, this is where I sort of say it's not just about the technology, but it's sometimes the process or the people that are sort of surrounding it also. So like an example, sort of that comes to mind is, we were, trying to, implement a solution that was basically like an IoT solution, during COVID sort of time. And, there was obviously some technology challenges, because the devices were not really meant to track sort of proximity to other people. We had, kind of this technology thinking it works perfectly, where we gave people sort of, things to wear, and if you came like within 6 feet of somebody else, it would beep. And what started to happen was it would just keep going on and on. The beeps would just never stop. And so people got really frustrated. And, we also were dealing with a team that was pretty young, and, through COVID, nobody sort of was available. I mean, there's a lot of kinds of sort of stuff that could go wrong like that.
COVID technology was never meant to last.
Yeah. And so it was interesting experience. I mean, good intent, but very frustrating experience for people.
Good lessons learned.
Yeah.
Atul, you're also what was your involvement with the founding of W&D? Were you one of the founders of W&D Ventures or board?
So I am, so W&D Ventures is the corporate venture capital arm of DPR Construction. So, and I am one of the two people that manages W&D Ventures. So that's part of my responsibility as part of the leadership team, is to manage W&D Ventures.
Okay. So here's a broad question. What was the hardest thing about investing in construction technology?
I think the hardest thing that I would say, like I can give you like what our lessons learned have been. So I think initially when we started it, we would get very enamored by the technology. So there was a company where, we had a founder who had a good pedigree, went to great universities, had done a lot of stuff and all that. And they were trying to now do something in the construction industry. And we were like, yeah, this is awesome. This looks great. This will be so amazing. And we put in like $500,000, like right away. And then what we realized is that, this person, didn't really get along with his other founders, and, the technology that, they were basically, showing to us was, coming in the future, and they were themselves not committed to it because they had some other startup and that they were more excited about, and so they didn't really care about like this. And so it just became like this, one of these things where what we said is, okay, we are gonna now only do investments in a company where we have at least tested the product on one of our projects as a proof of concept. And we have feedback from our own people on it, and that we know the founding team and how they are operating, because it's not sometimes the technology, but it's the people who have founded the company getting along. I mean, it should be as simple as that. And there's a lot of things that go wrong in that early stage where there's disputes on ownership percentages and some people not getting along or whatever happens, people getting poached, all that. And so we just want to sort of we want to keep promoting kind of innovative ideas, but we also want to be smart about sort of, okay, where do we sort of back up? So more recently, what we're doing in WND is we try it out on our projects. We get to see all these things unfold in front of us. And then, we always have the opportunity to invest in the, whatever round they are at. So
how many investments have you done this year?
This year we have done about, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Are they, it sounds primarily that they are strategic investments as well.
Yeah. I mean, the way we look at it is like, for us, the biggest consideration is, does it help in those 5 areas of our core business? That is the biggest consideration we have. I mean, yes, if they make money, obviously, but we are not looking at it from like a purely, is it going to make money for us perspective, meaning a return on that investment. I think if it helps our construction process, construction business, get better, I mean, that's like many more times return usually than what the little investment will make in the company. So that's how we look at it, which is different than what a traditional VC would look at. I mean, a traditional VC is looking at it as, hey, I need to return, whatever 3x, 5x, 10x multiple of what I'm investing. That's not sort of primarily our consideration. It's really the consideration is, how does it help our core construction business?
So this 2-3 million that you mentioned earlier that you spend like annually, does it include this? Was it for this 4 or 5 investments, or that's
no? So that's for like all kinds of innovative ideas. I mean, those are usually in the sometimes 25,000-50,000 kind of a range. These investments are more in the quarter to $500,000 kind of a range, and so innovation funding is coming from sort of the core DPR business through our corporate innovation group, and then we will do that there. And then if we like something, there's an opportunity to invest, then it goes to our WND Ventures board.
Got it. Okay.
Interesting. I was going to ask, as we're on the process of technology, did you use any like technology within WND Ventures to help with like the operation there?
Yeah. So that's so do we use something in WND, or do we use something that we have invested through WND in DPR? What's the question?
Within WND, so as to actually help the operation of the investment vehicle.
So, I mean, we have access to sort of all the sort of the tools that like, the VCs sort of have access to, like, when we look at like, research reports and like, some of like the Carta kind of tools and all that. But we also have our own sort of database where we maintain like every company we have talked to and where they are. And, so there's like a due diligence list and all that we maintain in a database.
And I guess you guys also listen to Bricks Bytes podcast.
Yeah.
Until you told me you did.
I did. Yeah, I did. You guys are famous.
Nearly as famous as you.
Yeah.
How many solutions do you get? Like we had a funny story where we were speaking to someone and he says he gets around 7 pitch decks on his desk a day, or startups trying to sell to the construction team.
Yeah, so I don't think we are that like I'm that like experiencing it that bad. I think, but we still get a lot. I mean, we probably, I was looking at our portfolio that we manage, and there's at least 50 companies on that list in various stages of. We classify them into initial contact to awareness to, first meeting to, POC to pilot, that's how we classify it. And there's at least 50 companies on that list right now. A lot of it with the .ai, behind them. So if you just change your podcast to .ai, I think might.
Thanks for that tip. I was going to ask actually maybe not trending technologies, but what's the most technology that you see pitching to you? But you just answered that. What is on the second position after AI? that you see there is quite a large supply of it on the construction technology market?
I mean, robotics is another one, I think, and AI and robotics are now like fueling each other a little bit too, where, I'm going to be at the inauguration of the Stanford Robotics Center. And I think what I see there is that, I mean, innovation in robotics is a little difficult because it's a little bit more capital intensive. And I definitely see sort of the type of things that are happening there, where like consortium of people are coming together. Like when we created our patent for Laybot, I mean, we invested a couple $1 million and we are not like robot builders. And we realized pretty quickly that in order for us to scale it beyond whatever our prototype was, would have taken like millions of dollars more. And so what we see is that, I mean, that's an area that is going to be really valuable for our company. I mean, we are already seeing that benefit in layout, and pretty soon, like, with other activities like travel and other stuff. And so I do feel like I think there's a lot of promise there, but I think the way innovation happens there could evolve slightly differently, where, a lot of this can come out of like, consortiums of people working together rather than like a single individual server.
Atul, what advice would you give to a startup team pitching to a DPR about their technology?
I think be clear about the problem sort of you're trying to solve and who it benefits, and what sort of behavior change you expect for your tool to work, and don't oversell. I think those are the types of things I would probably say to a startup.
The behavior change part is quite interesting and I think complex, because every single general contractor or large general contractor has slightly different ways of operating, right? Have you come across situations where a team was explaining that, with this contractor we do it this way, that way, and it was different in your case? And have you come across situations like that?
I mean, fundamentally, like I think, whatever solution any entrepreneur is creating, I mean, they want it to solve the industry problem. So there's some things that are general enough that apply to all companies, even though their processes might be different. I think on this question of behavior change, I think many times people sort of just expect that that's going to happen. And I think what I want these entrepreneurs to be thinking about is, what actually the step 1, step 2, step 3 it's going to take to actually get it done, because that's where the inertia happens. And I think, I think if you think about it sooner rather than later, that would be better, because, many times, it's not the technology, but it's like the steps it takes to actually adopt it,
Very good. Martin, I feel like we have, like, in record speed, finished our question list.
Perhaps, yes. I have one kind of off-topic question, if I can.
Go ahead.
Or you want to go something with topic? Or...
No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
What is a book recommendation, Atul, to get a little bit of wisdom that you acquired? What is the book recommendation that you have for people?
So I feel, if I can be selfish, I mean, so I am a big believer in, obviously technology. I think this, podcast is more about technology, but I'm a big believer in integration of sort of process, organization, and tools in order to bring like real change in our industry. And I was fortunate enough to, participate in writing a book called Integrating Project Delivery, which I would love for the industry to read, because I think it not just talks about the technology, but the organization and the process aspect of it, which lets the technology flourish in delivering those outcomes for our customers. And I wish more owners and customers adopt that approach of project delivery that would make people like me and you and all the technology in sort of driven and interested people successful in our projects.
Thank you. And this question wasn't staged.
Sponsored question. We haven't done that one before. Maybe we should think about that, Mike. Anyway, okay, Atul, I mean, we ask everyone at the end, but I think it's pretty obvious where people can find out more about you. But where can people find out more about you?
So, I mean, I'm in San Francisco Bay Area. I'm always available via email and through our website and all that. So, love to participate in things like this and, interact and learn from the experiences I have. So, so this is always interesting. I'm very approachable that way.
Thank you so much, Atul.
Thank you, Atul.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.